At the beginning of the movie, we are taken deep into space where two giant celestial guardians, monstrous-looking creatures, are floating around in space. Suddenly, a spear is shot out of nowhere, hitting the celestial guardian's mate and capturing the attention of Ten Lang Hawthorne. Suspended in space in his custom suit, fires another shot at the female, prompting Ten Lang to pursue him. The captain takes a shot from inside the ship, narrowly missing Ten Lang and inadvertently triggering the ship's explosion, killing the captain in the process. Several years later on Earth, a girl on a red motorcycle arrives in front of a restaurant where a special exchange is taking place and informs her precinct of the situation. Inside the restaurant, Ahab is having a meal in front of Richard and presents him with a map depicting Ten Lang's appearance and disappearances. Ahab promises Richard that if he manages to capture the creature, he will be able to get 5 seasons worth of haul for it. As they're conversing, Ahab gets information from one of his employees that ICE is watching them and immediately assumes that they're being set up by Richard. When they try to attack him, Richard manages to fight them off and steals the map from Ahab, exposing him to a bug that causes insanity. Returning to his ship, Richard meets up with his brother, Owen, and the rest of his crew. Before they could depart, the crew got a new member by the name of Lynn, sent to be a chaperone as their mining and fishing escort. After the ship sets its course, Owen introduces Lynn to the rest of the crew, beginning with their pilot Rags, who is playing cards with Hawthorne and Harrop. Once she's introduced to everyone, Lynn settles into her quarters and contacts her partners on base, the only people who know that she joined Richard's crew to heal herself from her chronic disease. During the call, her 2 teammates give her a better description of the crew so she can be better accustomed to her situation. On their first stop, Harrop, Owen and Hawthorne gear up and head out into space with their containers ready. Using a mineral-rich rock, the group was to haul clickers, large crab-looking animals, into the containers. After a large clicker escapes their catch, Owen breaks formation to catch it, but an explosion of light causes him to lose focus and pass out. As the team works together to get him back, Owen comes to and is shocked to see a kelbaleen emerge from the light, swimming around in the vast space. Without wasting any time, Owen tags the creature with a tracking device as the rest of the crew gets a glimpse of the large beast. After floating around the ship for a few seconds, the creature disappears in another flash of light. Although shocked by the sight, the group manages to pull back Owen in one piece. Although they had planned to follow the kelbaleen, their hyperdrive systems seemed to be down. Following the thrilling ordeal, the group gathers to enjoy a meal prepared by the chef, Batali. As they discuss the enormity of the kelbaleen, Lynn reveals that 6 months prior, AmberCorp intercepted an indistinct transmission just outside the Hyperion star system. The transmission indicated the presence of a kelbaleen 5 times larger than usual, leading Lynn to speculate that they had encountered Ten Lang and that the vessel which discovered it might have ventured into white space. Amused by the notion, Richard encourages the group to refocus on reality, disregarding Lynn's speculation. Later, Harpo and Rags are discovered being intimate in the supply closet, revealing Harpo's infidelity to Batali. Following his encounter with Rags, Harpo visits the captain's quarters and questions why they are not pursuing the kelbaleen instead of returning home with a modest catch. In response, Richard expresses his desire to rid the group of Lynn. Sneaking out of a room, Lynn makes her way to the command center and passes the security protocol to send out a signal, exposing them to the nearby vessels. Alone at last, Richard watches an old recording of his father before his disappearance into space. Suddenly, the ship's alarm blares, signaling the arrival of space pirates commonly referred to as boomers. The crew quickly assumes formation, concealing the girls, while Lynn defiantly remains standing as they allow the pirates to board the ship for a discussion. Upon boarding, the boomer captain initially addresses Richard before being captivated by Lynn. As she pulls out her gun, he swiftly pins her against the wall, immobilizing her. Upon searching her, he discovers a badge, which he forcefully removes and hurls at Richard, revealing that they had an ICE agent among them. The pirates then continued to empty the ship's pantry, cleaning them out of everything they had brought on board. Tagging the ship so they can find them if they ever set out a signal, the boomers leave. Once they're safe, Richard angrily tells the men to restrain Lynn and put her in a cell until they can drop her off. Discouraged by the sudden raid caused by Lynn's unauthorized transmission, the group gathers around to discuss what their next step needs to be. Richard, seeing that they had only 2 choices, proposes that they go home empty-handed or go after Ten Lang. The group is skeptical about going after the mythical creature as it could mean the further further depletion of their resources. After an invigorating speech, the team agrees to follow their capture and catch Ten Lang. Once the group is dispersed, Hawthorne finds Richard and warns him that he is going after the same creature that killed his father, but assures him that he will be beside him until the end. Sent by his brother, Owen goes to speak to Lynn about why she had secretly joined the group. She explains that she had been tracking Ten Lang movements and that only one ship, the Essex, was following it. Realizing what his brother had been doing all along, Owen finds Richard in the control room and confronts him. Richard explains that he had been hunting the creature that had killed the father at the expense of the team. Suddenly, ambergris, a bile-like substance secreted by the kelbaline, splashes on the window. Excited by what they run into, Owen tells his brother that collecting them would more than replace the haul they had lost so they can return home. Owen, Harpo, and Hawthorne hurriedly dress up in their suit and head out to space to collect their gold mine. During the process, their team encounters the previous boomers after having found the beacon Richard had hidden in their haul. Targeting the ship, the boomer captain and one of his men begin to shoot at the Essex, aiming for distraction. Instructing his men to reboard the ship, Richard starts readying the vessel for hyperdrive. Against orders, Harpo lingers for a few more seconds in hopes of catching a clicker for food, narrowly avoiding being caught by the pirates. He barely makes it back to the ship as the pirates launch a missile and Richard engages the hyperdrive. Once everyone is safe inside, Harpo yells at Richard for attempting to leave him behind, but Richard angrily pushes him back, telling him that he had disobeyed orders. In the back of the ship, Stubniski, the cruise mechanic, is trying to clean up selbaline bile from his suit when a small insect-like creature crawls over his hands and then pierces his skin, making him scream in agony. In the kitchen, Batali has dissected the clicker and cooked a meal for the group. Meanwhile, in the communal shower, Stubniski is vigorously scratching his body under the hot water, attempting to rid himself of the insects that have burrowed into his skin. As he looks down at his arms in panic, he observes the tiny creatures wriggling beneath his skin. After finding Rag's undergarments in the supply closet and figuring out that Harpo is cheating on her, Batali takes him to their room and tells him that she is 3 months pregnant. The news disturbs Harop, making Batali realize that her boyfriend didn't want their child. Richard goes to visit Lynn and tells her that it wasn't a coincidence his ship matched Ten Lang appearance pattern, but he had a better chance now since he had a tag on the creature. He tells Lynn that she won't stop him from killing Ten Lang as revenge for taking his father away from them. Inside his room, Stubniski begins to go slowly mad as the insects eat away at his brain. After hours of tinkering, Lynn manages to get her door open and tries to sneak out, but she encounters Harpo, who tries to stop them. As the two engage in hand-to-hand combat, Stubniski surprises them, distracting Lynn long enough for Harpo to hit her on the head. Hoping to persuade Richard to return home for the child he and Batali are going to have, Harpo sabotages their oxygen system. He then informs the captain what had happened, blaming the incident on Lynn, and the two lock the woman in the storeroom. Heading back up to the control room, Richard finds Rags napping and wakes her up, asking her if she has found anything. Pointing up front, she shows him a decimated spaceship floating in space, and they assume it was another craft that had come looking for Ten Lang. Inside the storeroom, one of the giant clickers escapes its holding cage and attempts to attack Lynn. Before it could get her, Richard opened the door and, surprised by what he had seen, rushed them to the airlock while the creature followed them close behind. Once Richard gets it in the right position, he drops a large dangling object, crushing it to death. Upon learning of the situation, Owen informs Richard that they cannot imprison Lynn again, much to Richard's dismay. He asserts to his brother that the woman is now his responsibility. This leads to a heated argument between the two brothers about their father. Owen believes their father abandoned them when their mother was ill, while Richard defends their father, stating that Owen didn't truly know him. Disobeying orders, Owen sends out a transmission to the fishing base requesting assistance. Suddenly, the ship is rocked as Ten Lang appears out of a bright light and begins attacking the ship. As they keep their ship steady to harpoon the beast, Owen suits up and heads out of the ship. In a panic, Richard instructs the others to provide backup while he readies the shot. However, before he can take it, Lynn shuts down the system, allowing the beast to attack Owen, crushing him in his suit and then vanishing into a bright light. Richard is devastated by his brother's death and consoled by Hawthorne, who shares his drink with him. In the supply closet, Harpo convinces Rags to turn the ship around in the name of his unborn baby, telling her that Richard will never stop until they're all dead. Although she doesn't want to give up on her captain, she finds their oxygen level alarming and agrees with Harpo. Richard tells Lynn that they need to turn back because of the low oxygen level, and the only one who can fix it, Stubniski, is missing. While trying to look for him, they find parasites on the ground and realize their mechanic is infected. Giving Lin the task of finding him, Richard goes to control Ten Lang, who has made another appearance. As Lin locates and assaults Stubnisky, Richard and Rags successfully evade the enraged Ten Lang, who appears to be seeking vengeance. Following a harrowing experience, Rags skillfully guides them to safety, earning gratitude from her captain. Assuming command, Richard instructs Rags to head to the shower, but she is unexpectedly stabbed by the now deranged Stubnisky. Several hours later, Ten Lang re-emerges, prompting Richard to venture out and draw the creature's attention while Hawthorne harpoons it. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Lin discovers Stubnisky attacking Batali and intervenes by severing his head. Simultaneously, in the control room, Hawthorne observes Richard in peril and resolves to assist him, ultimately being compelled to eliminate Harpo when he attempts to stop him. Outside the ship, Richard puts up a brave fight, but is ultimately swallowed by Ten Lang, the same way his father had been. The beast then continues to destroy the ship while Hawthorne watches from space, being the only one who survived another attack by Ten Lang. Before the explosion of the ship, Lin hides herself in an impenetrable valve, allowing her to enter white space with the Guardian when the ship explodes. Several days later, a ship that had intercepted Owen's transmission arrives in the area and sees a bright light in the distance. As they watch, a small chamber appears from inside, Lin safely nestled inside it. And with that, the movie ends.